Welcome to How Now, the podcast where we talk about how to live in the now. And here's your host, Kim Martin Raymond.
Peace and blessings, love and light, and welcome to this Rewind Wednesday edition of the How Now podcast. I am your host, Kim Martin Raymond. I am a minister, spiritual life coach, holistic nutritionist, author, and founder of Redefining You LLC, where I help my clients to realign themselves, mind, body, and spirit. And if this is your first time joining us on the How Now podcast, welcome to the show. Be sure to go to my website, www.hownowpodcast.com, click on your favorite podcast platform, and be sure to like, follow, share, and subscribe. You can also scroll to the bottom of the page and then click on the banner for this week's show, and it'll take you to the How Now YouTube channel where you can like, follow, share, and subscribe there as well. And also check out my playlists like my Tuesday, and other things that are going on in my now. And again, that's www.hownowpodcast.com. And this week's Rewind Wednesday, we're going to be talking about the joy of parenting. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Okay, so let's get into today's show. Today, we're going to be talking about putting the joy back into parenting. And we know that parenting looks so different nowadays. You know, it's not just a mom and a dad. Sometimes it's two moms, two dads. It can be grandparents. It can be siblings. We're seeing parenting taking on a whole different shape and form as we move through these years and as times continue to change, not just during the pandemic, but during many years, the many years prior and the many years to come. So parenting is going to look different. So we want to talk about putting the joy back into parenting. And my lovely guest today is going to be helping me to go through the weeds on how to make that possible. And as is customary with the How Now podcast, I'm going to have my guest to introduce herself at this time. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, everybody. My name is Joanne Light. I live in Boston, north of Boston. I have been married for almost 51 years to the same person. And we have raised a family here in Massachusetts. And I have a passion for parenting as I've dealt with my share of the issues that one needs to navigate to be a parent. It's hard. This is the hardest job a parent will have, whether you're a dad, a mom, a grandparent, a cousin who's involved. It doesn't matter, aunt and uncle. I believe that it's really a very difficult thing to do, and asking for help and learning more and more and in improving your skills. It is a skill set. I mean, obviously you just love your children to death, but there are lots of things that come automatically when you become a parent. Right. Fear, for one thing. You know, you're afraid of everything. You're trying to protect them, and you inside, you know, you can't protect them from everything, right. But you give it a go, you give it a try, and along the way we make some mistakes. We don't let our kids make mistakes. So I'm an educator at heart. That is my role and my passion. I've always been in education. I've taught high school, and then I was an administrator and a counselor at a local community college for over 30 years. Wow. I spent a lot of time with students, faculty, administrators, learning how to run meetings and be cooperative, and watching people blossom and bloom, because community college is a place where people who are ready to change their lives. Right. And that is critical, I think, to all of us, especially in these days. We can't let our negativity bias and our that bias of kind of going along with what's going on and accepting everything you hear and read. You have to be an intentional, open-minded person. So I work with parents, mostly parents of teens, but all parents, whatever your status is as a parent, be it an adopting parent or a natural parent or whatever you are. I work with parents so that they can have some strategies and skills in dealing with the challenges that come every single day. Yeah. And of course, pandemic was part of that. But I love teens I taught teens. I feel that they get a bad rap. There are too many parents who say, oh my God, now I'm going to hold my breath for 6 years, or they dread, they're in the supermarket and they have a little one in the carriage, and you have your little one in the carriage and the cart, and the person behind you says, oh, enjoy it now because wow,
Right.
the worst is yet to come. Well,
That's
that's not a good way to go into it. We have to not dread those challenges.
right.
And I think teenagers, parenting teens has to be something you embrace.
That's right.
So that's where I found my passion. My own kids, believe me, I made my share of mistakes. They're all adults now, but not
Right.
necessarily all perfect, happy, wonderful adults just living their lives. It's always a challenge. So that's what I do. I have been on podcasts and summits, and I network, and I work with individuals, I work with families, and I just love trying to help. And I always feel if I can help people navigate these challenges, they can enjoy this role a little bit more. Though it may be
Absolutely.
hard. And so if I have just a couple of people, it feels good, because it's really our responsibility, especially now where the world is at, for us to raise a new generation of leaders. We really,
Absolutely.
really, we're all under the gun, so to speak.
Yes.
It makes me very sad to see how
Mhm.
troubled kids are today.
Mhm.
All the kids, even the elementary kids, but the teens are really under a lot of stress, and
Yeah.
they need their parents to be aware of that and emotionally intelligent. We could talk about emotional intelligence. I'm
Oh,
all about
absolutely.
emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to that. Absolutely. Because I mean, when we talk about parenting, we're like I said, it's so different from when we were parents. It was so different from when my parents were
When we were
parenting
parenting,
me,
yeah.
when we were parenting our children, and I mean, we have parents who are younger. We have parents who are in crisis themselves. And so it's very difficult for them to parent. But the one thing that has been consistent throughout time is that there is no instruction book that comes out when the child comes out.
That's true.
We have experts and people who have talked about parenting and talked about the importance of parenting and some of the milestones and things that children reach. But there are so many variables that happen in the lives of our children that don't make the experience the same for everyone, and we have
No,
to
no.
be mindful of that. It's going to be different. We have people that have children that some children are colicky, some children are fussy, some children are cool as cucumbers, and they've been no problem. I mean, my children were different,
From
growing
each
up.
other, right?
Yeah, from each other in the same family. So parenting can be a challenge because you have different personalities that you may be dealing with within your own home. It's not like it's going to be the same for each child because every person is an individual, and we have to make sure that we're tapping into them. But more importantly, like you said, before we even talk about emotional intelligence, is making sure that the parents are able to tap into themselves.
Selves. Yeah, I always say, Kim, that when I meet with parents, that it starts with you, because we all have generational patterns,
Yeah.
things that we remember from our being brought up that interfere with how you parent, and in good ways sometimes, but not always. And it's really important for parents to look inside themselves. You've got to do some work. You have to realize what's important, what your values are. What is it that you want? Do you want your kids to be an extension of you, or do you want them to find their passion and
Right.
spread their wings and become who they want to be? I
Right.
think there's a tendency in our Western culture to sort of guide them along, and you mean well, you
Right.
intend it to be
Right.
good, but sometimes you have to remember, are you doing it for you, or are you doing it
Right.
for them? And
Right.
that's a difficult pill for parents to swallow, because
Yeah.
we all love our children unconditionally, and we don't always handle it that well. We get hooked into that ego, and you need to let your judgment and your ego and your expectations to be moderated according to the child that you have, and your child well, so
Right.
you have to sort of adjust. And that's why I'm really hot to talk about or to share with parents emotional intelligence, because if you are self-aware and self-regulated, you can, and modeling for your children,
Right.
your behavior impacts them. And
Yes.
when they're teens, you know, I hear all the time, oh, they don't need me anymore. Well, that's the furthest
Most.
from the truth. They
That's
need
right.
That's right, Kim. They need
That's
you
right.
more than ever when they hit
That's right.
that adolescent time, when they're trying to figure out their push and pull. You know, their brains are developing in a very speedy way, but their emotions, you know, need attention, and
Right.
their rational thinking isn't always. It's like when you say to your kid, what were you thinking? The answer is they weren't thinking.
You weren't.
They were just
Right.
responding.
Right.
So there's
Right.
just a lot there.
There is, and because you know, what it makes me think of, and because you know, both of us have a background in education, you
Yep.
know, so many of our children
Doctorate of
are,
education. So what?
right,
You know?
are being educated by their teachers, by their caregivers. You know, we think about even as young as those who are in the childcare you know, arena, who are in childcare facilities where they're spending several hours of the day with those teachers. And one of the expectations that we have of those teachers is that, you know, the children get their energy from that teacher. Their children get their you know, a lot of what they're learning from their teachers. And as parents, how do we come in and work alongside those educators?
That's true.
And you know, and we saw a lot of that when the pandemic hit and people had to actually parent their children even more because they were no longer passing the torch on to the teachers or the caregivers that were taking a bulk of their time. I mean, you know, were spending a bulk of their time with their children.
Yeah,
So
all of a sudden you had to be a parent and a teacher, and
yes,
that doesn't. I mean, it's one thing to parent your own kids, but to
right,
you teach them certain things, but I don't know about all the things that you need to teach them as a teacher. That's different. And I think it's been hard for, and I'm sure you have experience with this, kids going back to school has been difficult for the kids
yes,
and for the schools. I think we haven't figured out exactly, you know, and the kids need so much besides arithmetic
yeah,
and history. They just need social and emotional intelligence. They need to learn how to emotionally respond and react and deal with their emotions. It's like when that your 3-year-old has a major tantrum because the cup is not the right color and throws himself or herself or themselves on the floor. It's because they have big emotions that they don't know how to deal with.
right.
So as a parent, if you go in down their rabbit hole with them and get, you know, mad and angry and hysterical and worried, it doesn't work. So as parents, we need a lot of patience and calm. And so whatever means you use to deal with your stress, you really need to work on it. So parents need help.
Right.
Don't get burned out. You need
right.
to ask
Because
for
what
help.
happens is the children are going to mirror the behaviors that they see in the home.
They mirror
They're
the
going to bring
behaviors
those-
and the emotions. You know, they
Right.
learn. It's contagious. If you're anxious all the time, they learn anxiety and they don't want to disappoint you. So they're watching you when they're little and when they're older.
That's it. They get all of their energies from you. How, you know, you are a portion of how their day may go. If you're dropping them off to school and you're fussing at them because they didn't have their favorite breakfast, or you were rushing them because they overslept, that can set the tone for their entire day. So much of what we do as parents is going to determine the course of how they're going to react and respond to the things that are happening during the course of the day. So they're getting their energy from us. So our energy has to be in a place where you know where that self-regulation, where that emotional intelligence comes in, and I definitely want to touch on that because it's so important for us to be able to, you know, show empathy, and we're not seeing much of that in society.
No,
you know,
we are
and
not.
We're seeing a lot of people doing a lot of trainings on this. People are doing a lot of coaching on this because it's just something that's it's lost. You know, people just think, when I was young, we were taught, it's just nice to be nice. That's what my grandmother said. It's just
Yep, be
nice to be nice.
kind, and
And it was that
women
simple.
differently than the
Right.
guys. I mean,
Right.
emotions are everywhere, and we all have thousands of them during the day. And if you don't, I think if you've not learned that emotions are, it's okay. They're not bad or good. They're information as to what your behavior, then becomes. And so I really, it's important to teach people how to regulate their own emotions and recognize them. What are you feeling now? How do you feel? And what does that make you do? I mean, it's not easy to do, but they are skills you can learn. And one of the things I think since pandemic, I know we want to talk about that, is two things that I think are really important as we all deal with pandemic and the coming out of it, is to be, first of all, to be active, to be exercising. I try to tell parents, exercise and nutrition, those are all real important. But gratitude, I'm all about trying to teach, not to teach, but to have people think about gratitude and make it a big part of their life. Be grateful for what you have and express it. If every day there's just lots of things we take for granted that if we express I think people who heartfelt express their gratitude to someone, not just a quick thank you, but geez, you did this for me, I really appreciate it. You make people, I think it reduces stress and it makes people feel connected. And if there's something we've learned about parenting, about coming off a pandemic or dealing with crises or the world as it is today, it's making connections.
Absolutely.
We all need to make social connections. And I feel the most important thing you have to do with your own child is create a connection, and one that can be long lasting. So you have to learn to be a good listener. You have to do non-judgmental listening. You have to ask open-ended questions. It's not easy, but you have to, it's how you respond in the moment, is whether you have emotional intelligence or not. And it's a good thing to learn. Just be willing to learn how to recognize your emotions, understand where they're coming from. Not because usually when a child behaves in a certain way, it's just the tip of the iceberg. They're not getting to all the stuff underneath. And that's true for you as an adult as well, whether you're parenting little kids, older kids, your nieces, your nephews, trying to help. So I think gratitude is a huge, huge thing.
Gratitude. Okay, so when people come to you for parenting coaching, are they coming to you in a place of crisis already, or are they coming to kind of be proactive in the process?
I'd say it's both, Kim. I think more often than not, even if it's not really a crisis, they feel it's a crisis. Little kids, they're not sleeping, their behavior, those kinds of very tangible things. Or the parents of adolescents, my kid won't do his homework. My kid is drinking, going out with friends. It's problems that they want a solution. So I try to put it back on them and ask how they feel about it, and have they thought about it, and how do they interact with their children. And as I said earlier, it just starts with you. I could give you a tip. I could say, okay, try this, with homework, make a time and a place and create structure. And that's important. But what is else going on? What is all the turmoil? What is the reason? Why is your kid resisting homework? And try to understand, ask them questions, be empathic, because our kids want to be seen. They want to be understood. They want to be soothed. They want to feel safe. And if you make your home a place of where it's safe to talk about anything and to be who you are, then they can go back out in the world and be much more confident and competent, I think. And teaching them to be grateful for what they have, even if it's little. I mean, even the parents who feel that they're not giving their kids, everything that they want financially, there's a whole lot of other ways to teach kids gratitude. And it creates, this from your own business, cooperation. It's all about cooperation. And if we can create cooperation at home, our kids know how to go out in the world And
Yeah.
boy, we need people to go out in the world and learn to talk to each other and
Mm.
cooperate.
Yes, because just like you said, we are parenting future leaders. And
Absolutely.
we don't want our children to be children that are self-centered, children that lack empathy, children that don't appreciate the small things that they have. I mean,
Right.
that's so critical. I love that you say gratitude is the first step, because we have to show our appreciation for the fact that we're here, we're together, we're a family,
You
you
woke
know?
up this morning,
That's right. That's right. When you went to go turn on that water to brush your teeth, that water came on.
Right,
When you turned on that light in the bathroom, that light came on.
right.
You didn't wake up under the stars. You woke up in a nice, comfortable bed,
Yeah,
and it was warm or it was cool. The temperature was just right. And we have to, make sure that children appreciate those things. And
absolutely.
sometimes we don't. They just accumulate things, and it becomes, they become the accumulator of things, but they don't appreciate them.
Right, right.
That's why you have children who have cell phones and they crack the screen. They're just like, okay, I need another phone. It
Yeah,
becomes just, a means to an end. I need this, not the fact that, oh, I broke it. I'm sorry I broke it. Or I'm sorry that I was careless with it, or that I didn't appreciate, that these phones are not cheap,
right.
but
And
I
if they
broke it,
did
and all I
that,
want to know is I need another one.
right. But if
You
they
know,
had a different response,
right,
your empathy would be, you
right,
know, because
right.
empathy, people get mixed up between empathy and compassion and sympathy. I think
Yes,
they're all pretty different. Empathy is harder to achieve. It's when
yes,
you really you ask enough questions and you connect in enough way that um you're really experiencing their emotions and
right,
understanding. When
right,
you're sympathetic, oh, you kind of feel sorry for someone, but you always see it through your own lens, through your
right,
own perspective.
right.
Oh, I'm sorry, I know how you feel because I did such and such and I lost my friend. Or yeah,
Yes,
that's sympathy. That's
right.
not really
It's
empathy. And
not empathy.
compassion, I think, is when you feel sad for on behalf of someone, but you
Right,
also want to help. You want
right,
to listen. You want to, that. And if you have compassion for your kids, it's easier for you to have empathy and for them to develop empathy.
right.
Developing empathy is not it.
It
It's
is.
not just boom, it happens. You have to work
You're
at it.
absolutely right with that, because I mean, it's just a matter of children understanding that you're if it's something that's happened to a person, that you're sorry that they had the experience that they had, but you're not negating that they had that experience. Because we hear nowadays about, oh, you're being extra, you're doing the most. You hear those types of terms, and it's just like you're not showing, or you're not acknowledging that person had that experience.
Right.
And
Right.
we have to be so careful not to do that,
Not
especially
to
with
bring
our
your
children.
experience necessarily
Right,
into it.
right. Or like I said, just to tell somebody that they're being extra or they're overreacting. It's
Yeah.
real to them. It
Yeah.
is real to them. The feelings and the emotions and the experience that they're having is real to them.
Right.
And
And
it's
if you
so
say,
important
don't
that we
worry, or
acknowledge it.
it'll be okay, or
Right.
at least,
What's making
at
them know
least
that
you
it's
know better
going to
now.
be okay? Right,
That's dismissive, right, Kim? I mean,
right,
that's
right,
not really being emotionally intelligent. That's a really good example that you're
right,
giving of someone who's not emotionally intelligent,
right,
because, you know, that's it's so easy to do that.
right.
And it's like we have this tendency in our culture right now to be easily convinced of things,
Oh
and
yes.
social media has contributed.
Oh
We don't
yes.
really look hard into what is at the root of something.
Right.
And parents really need to do that. You
Right. We
learn
need
to
to be
trust and
childlike again,
connect.
just like children always ask why,
Yeah,
why.
right. Which is
What we need to do,
great.
we need to do that too. We need to go about saying, well, why is it that I feel the way I do? Why is it that I'm reacting in the way that I'm reacting, and really getting to the root of it? One thing that makes
Exactly.
me think of, Joanne, is when I think of a flower. If the flower or the plant is starting to wilt, we don't throw the plant out. We start looking at, okay, well, maybe I need to change the soil, or maybe I need to water the plant, or maybe it needs sunlight. We start looking at how we can change the environment. We don't get rid of the plant, we change the environment around it. So when I think about a child, it's like, okay, we're not throwing the child away. we're looking at the environment that they're in and saying, okay, what is it that I can do to change this environment that's going to help that child to blossom and to grow into the human being that or the leader that they need to be in the future.
And they're meant to be exactly who they need to be, right?
Yeah. So I mean that it's so important that as parents we try to see what we can do to make things better. And I think a lot of it, like you said, starts from within. What am I doing as a parent? Yeah, what am I doing as a parent, or what can I do, or seek the help. And that's the thing. Sometimes our pride gets in the way, and we don't ask for the help.
And there's a lot of help out there now, and
lots of resources.
Or you don't take care of yourself. You just think you take on that martyr role. Okay, I'm going to do everything.
Right.
Well, you can't do everything.
No.
That's the first thing I say to people who come and seem burned out. Wait a minute. Tell me about your day. Right. Okay. Did you really have to do that piece? Or what are your priorities? If your values are that the house has to be clean and that's more important, well, fit that in, but figure out a way to not make it so that you have no energy left when your kid comes home from school. It's important for every parent to have alone time with kids.
Yeah.
Some piece of every day. And, when the teen just runs upstairs, you have to accept that and make a time when you feel they're going to respond to you.
Right. And that the only connection that you have with them is not when you're disciplining them.
That's right. Because then they're going to act out, because that's the only time you pay attention to them.
That's it. Not, oh, your outfit was nice. Hey, let's go to the mall. Let's go out and eat, or let's go for a walk, or let's go and do something fun. Right. It's always that you only come when it's time to drop the hammer on them, or the shoe drops on them. That's not when we want to have our interaction.
No, if you're only yelling and nagging, no yelling. That's what I tell every parent. Okay, first rule, no yelling. You have to figure out how to get around that, how to change your response in the moment. You really, the nagging and yelling, they stop listening to you after 3 seconds.
That's right.
They're not really, especially when they're teens. That cuddly toddler might, be fine with you, trying to explain everything, but the teens need you to really openly and actively listen, really listen, not talking. Most parents talk 75% of the time and listen 25%. Right. And your goal is to flip that.
Right.
I say flip it. When they want if you build trust with your kids, Kim, with your teens especially, I think when they need something, they know that you're there. You've modeled how to problem solve. Right. And if they can't do it themselves, they're going to ask. Right. And then that's good. But if you're always just telling them and trying to fix everything, finish their science projects, bring their lunch to school when they forget, we all want to do that. I mean, guilty as charged right here. Right. I remember running out the door. Oh my God, he forgot his lunch. I'm going to drive it over. Yep. What?
Right.
Let them suffer he's going to be hungry, or he'll have to be clever and ask a friend.
Have a snack for him when they get home. He'll be all right.
Yep.
They're more resilient than we give them credit for.
That's right.
And sometimes I think we go so far out on a limb instead of listening to them. Like you said, we have to be active listeners. Sometimes, your child may get a boo-boo and you're ready to, cast their arm, and all they wanted you to do was kiss the boo-boo.
Right.
Kiss the boo-boo. That's all they wanted. And then they go skipping off, and here it is, you're having a coronary because you're thinking, oh my God, I need to do this and that. Oh my God. Sometimes it really takes us listening and saying, okay, what is it that you need? How can I help you? How can I best help you? And giving them the words so that they can articulate.
Right.
And I think that's where some of our children
and articulate their emotions.
Right. They don't know how to articulate their emotions because we have not given them an opportunity, because we want to save them and do everything for them, and not giving them an opportunity to exercise that muscle, within themselves, that they can learn how to speak. I don't like when somebody touches me like that. I don't like when somebody speaks to me like that. If we don't give them the vocabulary, they're going to continue to act out of frustration or to act out of negative emotions, because that's all that they've been taught to do, or that's all that they've seen. They've only seen you and your significant other or somebody arguing or fussing, never seeing you try to come to some type of consensus. Right. You don't want your children to be exposed to seeing you argue all the time. Let them see you hugging each other and loving on each other too.
Right. And figuring things out as a team, really.
Yeah.
And I think pandemic helped families a little bit in that, they were spending so much time that I know lots of families tried family meeting, and I think that really embraced that sense of working as a unit. But still, I see more downside to what pandemic did than upside. But we all have to bounce back now. I mean, I know I myself, I sometimes going out feels like a big deal. I mean, I admire you getting on an airplane and going all these places. Every time I have to do something, I think, oh, it just feels different. It just feels different. And we have to work really hard on rekindling friendships. And our kids are struggling with that too.
So
there's just
all right. So we, like I said, we talk about putting the joy back. And I know we've talked about how we've lost some of the joy in doing it, but like I said, one of those ways that we can start bringing that joy back is expressing gratitude, and being grateful for our children, and letting them know that they are a blessing, and that they are not they are not a stumbling block, but a stepping stone in all that we do. It's important for our children to know that we appreciate them. And we appreciate the things that they do. So, in that gratitude is also saying thank you to our children for the things that they're doing.
That's right.
Thank you.
And noticing the good things, not just the things they're doing wrong.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I think.
And what are some other things that they can, work on as far as putting the joy back in?
I think that gratitude, setting boundaries, but letting your children share in that, especially as they become teens. I think if you got to have some rules, there has to be some boundaries, but negotiate. If it's something like their curfew, it's good. They need to know that there are boundaries, but that you're supporting them in it. And if you've discussed the rules and what the consequences are, then if they take a risk and break the rule, they know what is to come.
Consequences.
I think that if you have, it's just builds cooperation and a way of communication that's so important, and that helps you trust them, and they trust you, and they feel they can come to you. So putting the joy back, I think, means really changing your mindset of what's best, and they need to follow what you think is best. You can share your opinions about things, but I think you need to understand that if it's rigid, you need to have some movement in the lines and ability. Now, some things are just like there's no drugs. I mean, there's a limit. You said certain things. That's not okay. That's not part of this. But they learn about their world if they can talk to you about what's safe and what's moral and what's just they're experimenting. They're supposed to experiment. Their brains are growing very, very fast from when they hit adolescence till about 18, and they can learn anything. So give them opportunities to learn and develop their passions. And just love them. Make sure they know you. Whatever they do, you can even say that to them. Look, I don't agree on how you dealt with Billy, and I understand, but I still love you. I might not love what you did, but I love you. You're not going to do things that are going to make me not love you. It's just, and some days that's hard because you love them, but you don't like them so much.
That's right.
So I think just having the attitude that you have to listen, you have to express your emotions, you have to model your values, you have to ask them questions and be curious and teach them gratitude and compassion. And that brings the joy back.
Yeah, and I think if it's something that they don't know, and you can say, well, look, let's do it together. Let's find out together. Let's go and research this together. Let's see what we both find out, and talk about what we think about that. What I also hear you saying, and when you're talking about that, is also when you're talking about setting boundaries, is also having some level of consistency there. Like you said, some things are hard no, and other things are,
let's talk about it.
Yeah. But not having that consistency and being too wishy-washy that can cause problems too, because they're going to roll the dice every time. Today I might get over with it, tomorrow I might not. But if there's some level of consistency in there,
it
with
makes it
regards
easier
to
for them
it.
to
Yeah.
negotiate their world. It really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. Because
That
they're going to be
really
rules
helps.
that they're going to have to follow when they get out in society.
Yep.
And so, and they're going to be ones that are going to be non-negotiable. So they need to know what those things are too. And know that when they come to you, okay, I'm not even going to bother that. We know when we were kids, our parents, you knew who to go and ask. Because it was like dad's gonna say no every time. Not sometimes, he's gonna say no every single time. So I'm not even gonna bother to ask him. I'm gonna go over and ask mom. Or
Right.
be that parent that's consistent enough where your child knows what those boundaries are. And then, like you said, I love that you say that if they do cross that line, that you let them know, yes, I don't agree with what you did, but I love you anyway.
All the
It's
time.
not that I'm going to hate you as a child. That's such a strong word. And it's not something that we're going to even associate with you. I'm going to love you. And just like you said, I may not love what you do, but I'm going to love you. And I think even in that happiness that we don't hold a grudge.
Oh yeah. And that's some parents, that's really a tough thing. They can't let stuff go. Not letting go is really a difficult thing. And it's a human response. Another thing that parents can do, I think, to bring more joy back is to be genuine. When you do something wrong or you say the wrong thing, apologize.
Yes.
Then you can reset. I lost my temper yesterday. I was tired. Work had been terrible. I really didn't feel like making dinner. So I'm really sorry I responded curtly or yelled or didn't give you the opportunity to explain, because and I'm really sorry. I feel bad that happened. Let's start over. Let's find a time because if you can make mistakes and apologize, then they don't feel like they have to be perfect either.
Right. Or
that's
that
pretty
you think
important.
that it's okay for you to do anything you want to do and they can't do anything. Then they feel like, okay, so I'm just going to get attacked every time I do something, and I can't ever be wrong.
Yeah.
If
Perfection
they
is
hear
not
you
a good goal for your
yeah.
kids or you.
Yeah.
It's just not, it doesn't happen. It's not going to happen. Can I make a plug for something I recently participated in?
Absolutely.
Someone that I've networked with, and she's a parent coach, was doing a compilation book. And I contributed a chapter, and it was amazing. When I see this book, it's called No Problem Parenting, raising your kiddos with more confidence and less fear. And, we talk about a manual for parents. This book is just a good example. I mean, there are a million parenting books out there, as you say, and I could certainly recommend some authors that I think are great, but this is coming from people, experts in the field, the health side, the well-being, the nutrition side, the grief side, and lots of different perspectives on parenting. So it's on Amazon. It's
we'll definitely
a
put the link
bestseller.
in.
So it's fun. It was fun for me. I hope to do more of that in the future. But sometimes some of those books are useful. You sit down and say, "Oh wow, that's great."
But it's amazing because parenting is not just when people think about that, they think about the discipline aspect. Like you said, it's the social, it's the emotional, it's the nutritional part too. Because how many of our children, especially in this Western society, are obese and have issues with weight, or you have children that are bulimic, or you have children that are anorexic, you have children that are going through all kinds of things, with regards to nutrition. And so it's just so many aspects
of
parenting, that go beyond just the discipline
and the behavior. Everyone focuses on behavior.
Everybody focuses on that. When we hear about children going into the school setting, whether it be private or public school, we hear about the behaviors. We don't hear about the nutrition. We don't hear about the social emotional. Now we are starting to hear more about it because it's more prevalent, because parents are now starting to, see, oh, I didn't realize that my child was that much of a behavior issue until I had to be at home with them 24 hours a day.
Really
and they were like, wait a minute, I didn't see all this. Then all of a sudden, we started seeing teachers getting roses and getting thank you cards and gift cards, because now people are like,
that's nice. I like that.
Right. We now we see what you all were doing. And and as educators, we were like, this is what we've been trying to tell you guys for years. We've been trying to tell you this for years. And, thank you for now finally seeing what it is, feeling our pain and seeing our pain and,
right.
Dealing with it. But it all goes back to relationship. It all goes back to partnerships.
Right.
And because our children spend so much time in group care, whether it be daycare, whether it be
or
public school or
Mhm.
private school, we as parents also have to make sure that we're partnering with our children's educators.
Yes.
So that way we're working together, so that way there's some synergy that's happening there, so that way we can bridge the gap, so that way we can understand where, troubles may be happening in the school setting, and say, okay, well, I realize this is happening. What can I do? Because there are a lot of parents who come, we know as educators, there are a lot of parents who come and they will defend their child tooth and nail and not even listen to what it is that we're trying to explain to them that we're seeing.
That's true. They're advocating for their child.
Yeah. So just like putting the joy back in parenting is also making sure that we're listening to those who are spending a lion's share of their time with our children.
Right.
And asking what we can do to partner with them, as opposed to, being in opposition with them. That's not what we want. We want to make sure that our children see that there's a synergy between us and their educators, and that we're looking to do what's going to be best for them as a whole individual. And that includes their time in that group care setting. So it's important. It is important. There's
engendering compassion in relationships and cooperation. We all need to see more cooperation everywhere in our lives, and that is important. And we have to be smarter with our feelings. We have to be intentional. It's like, see every experience through that lens. What could that teacher be feeling?
Yes.
It's
and I'm also thinking about, children who are, we're seeing so many gender roles and things that are different, and making sure that we're creating an environment where we're at least trying to have a level of understanding. And that's where these hard conversations are coming. It's definitely creating safe spaces, and definitely creating brave spaces.
Right.
And when we say brave spaces, talking about, and for those who have not heard that term, I've more recently heard that term, brave spaces, where you can have those hard conversations. We need to have those conversations with our children about race, about diversity, about equity, things that they would not normally, they're going to get their cues from us.
Exactly. So if you can talk about it over dinner is important.
That's right.
I think that's a great idea and a great direction to move in.
Right. And to see where our children are, so have you heard anything at school, or I've heard that there have been things going on, and asking our children, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. How does it make you feel when you see?
Right. And finding out where their mindset is, because if they're saying something that's to the contrary, then it's a wonderful time to open the door to have those conversations with them, and say, hey, this is these are our beliefs, and these are these are things. This is what I believe about this, or I want to be clear with this, because we don't whatever you've seen, or you may have seen it in your family, you may have seen it with some of the older people in your family. These are things we want to be careful to say, okay, we know that grandma or grandpa may say this or that, but understand that is something that, is not necessarily acceptable in our household, or we want to be careful to make sure that we deal with people properly.
And that you have to try to understand where they're coming from. Like if the grandparents, what their experience, why that led to what like my parents grew up in the Depression. So there were a lot of things that happened in the household that came from that lens, what I mean? So you can teach them that there's a different way to look at it. It's just very important.
Like you said, it's all about communication. It's all about conversations. It's all about safe spaces and brave spaces where children know that they can have those conversations, and that they're not going to be shut down.
Right.
Like you said, 75% of your time should be spent listening to the child. And, I say this all the time when I do my little trainings. I say, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, because we're supposed to listen more than we speak.
You're absolutely right.
More than we speak. So that way,
that is hard for some parents to.
It is. It is.
Caregivers to just adapt to, because
Yeah.
once you start, it's like, it just comes and comes and comes.
Right.
But
We have to remember again that the child is the plant, the flower, and we're responsible for
good metaphor.
changing that environment for them.
Right.
Set that
I'm a little hopeful because I think the Gen Zers, the younger
yeah,
teens into early 20s, they seem much more concerned and about things like climate change and
right,
social justice. I'm
right.
keeping my fingers crossed.
At least they're asking why.
Yeah,
And they, we were taught to be seen and not
not
heard,
heard. That's right.
and whatever mom, grandma, whatever they said, that was law and that was it.
That
We-
is the
so
absolute
yeah,
opposite of what
yeah.
we need.
These
We need
millennials
families.
and Gen Zers, they are definitely asking, well, why do I have to do that?
Yeah,
And why is that? And who said? So they're asking the right questions, and we have to be equipped to answer those or respond to those, or at least tell our children, mommy or daddy or grandma, auntie, cousin, I don't know the answer to that, but let's go and find out
you
together.
find
Let's
out.
see who we can ask
Right.
instead of just saying, well, do it because I said so.
Yeah.
Equip
Why?
our
Because
children
I said
because
so. Yeah.
they have to be able to make the connection. They can't make the connection if we don't explain why.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
we have to embrace that. I know my little granddaughter who's not quite 3, whatever you say to her, she says, "'Cause why? 'Cause why? 'Cause why?
right,
Papa's not here right now, he's working. 'Cause why?" And so
right,
they're born with this instinct to be
right.
curious.
Right.
So
And it has to be
this,
age appropriate, our response. We can't go, we
right,
don't have to go so deep, but we go just deep enough for them to go, okay. And then they go skipping off, and we don't have to overcomplicate things. We need to keep it simple, keep it age appropriate, and
absolutely.
and then
But embrace their
absolutely.
curiosity, and
Absolutely.
make them as teens be able to be curious.
Yeah.
That's pretty critical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and accepting because we all know the teenage years. That's when they're exploring their
Everything, their
clothing, their
identity.
identity, everything. And so we have to really be champions in that and saying, okay, yeah, it's a little weird. Oh, wow, that's a cool color that you chose. Wow, okay. And if it's not hurting them or those around them
That's good.
physically, they can do it. It's okay. It's
Right.
okay,
Right.
and we have to stand down sometimes. We're so quick to stand up that sometimes we don't sit down and we
And
need to
we
sit
need to
down.
move out of the way. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. But we know, like I said, that it's a challenge, to parent children. And this time, it's always been.
It has.
It's
And
always been a
as you said,
challenge.
it changes. But
It
I think there's
changes.
so many outside influences right now between
Yeah.
social media and the way the world works, that
Mhm.
it's hard. It's really hard to help kids hone in on their challenges and making change. But it starts with you.
It starts with us, and the joy comes from within. And once we're happy, just like negativity has a trickle down effect, so does positivity.
Right.
So if we're
And gratitude,
positive and
gratitude
right,
leads to more
yes, it does.
positivity.
That's it.
Makes you
And it's
feel an
going to trickle
abundance.
down to your children. My children, I think about when my children were growing up and they used to come and say, well, mommy, I want a new Barbie. I would say, okay, bring me your old one. And they go, uh-oh. And if Barbie was missing a head or she had marker on her face or half her hair was cut, then I say, okay, when you show me that you can take care of this one, then we can talk about getting you a new one.
Right.
And then
Right.
it was in no time. I would be like, they like, oh, mommy, can I have another one? Show me your other one. And she came down, she's looking great. All right, let's go to the store and get you another one because you've shown me that you can appreciate that. I did that with their clothes, everything. Were they all buried under the bed or were they hung on hangers or were they folded? Did you show me that you had appreciation for the things that you had? These are little things that we teach our children along the way that are
Right.
going to help them to, express gratitude. And we need to see a lot of that. They need to see empathy. They need to show us not blowing up or being angry all the time, but show that we have compassion and that we're trying to learn to self-regulate so that way they can do it.
If they'll model that, they'll learn how to
Yes.
regulate their emotions. If they can watch you do that with yours, it
Right,
really works.
right.
It
But
sounds
just know that
hard.
we
It sounds
can.
hard, like, oh no, that can't be, but it's true. It
That's
really
it.
is.
That's it. Well, I thank you so much
Oh,
for
and thank
coming
you.
and sharing all this wonderful information about gratitude and setting boundaries and really doing a search within ourselves to be the best parents that we can be, because that's where the joy starts. And the importance of communication. We have to be able to
Absolutely.
communicate effectively with our children. Listen. Put on your listening ears. We heard that as children. Put on your listening ears. Make sure that you're hearing.
Right.
Make sure that you're listening to your children and giving them an opportunity to play an active role in their own lives. That's going to make them better adults, better members of society,
Society.
who
Yes.
are going to be able to regulate and to be able to help others and to be, the best that they can be. We always talk about being the best version of ourselves. We need to make sure that we're giving our children an opportunity
The
to do the
opportunity to
same.
do that. Not the
Yes,
best version of you, but the best
that's right.
version of themselves.
That's right. Oh my goodness. We would be remiss if we didn't say, you cannot live your life through your children.
That's
There are some parents who try to live vicariously through their children.
totally,
Don't put
totally
that pressure on them. You can still do things to recoup some or recapture some of the things that
something
you
that you
want to
missed
recapture
or
in your own life,
overlooked.
but make
Nope.
it your life. Don't do it through your children.
Please try not to. It might be hard, but it's really great advice.
That's right. That's right. Now, before we go, I
Uh-huh.
always ask all of my guests, what are you doing to live in the now? In this new space that we're in, what are some things that you do that bring you joy or bring you peace in this now?
Well, right now I'm really working very hard on making more connections and
Mm.
reconnecting. I have in recent months been reconnecting with friends,
Yeah.
old schoolmates. I find that that gives me some new sense of who I am and what I'm trying to do. So
Yeah.
that is one of the things that I've been recently doing. And I've also been trying really hard to get out of my comfort zone and do things that are
Mm.
new and a
Yeah.
little challenging.
Yeah.
Like writing that chapter, like saying yes to that
Awesome.
woman who asked me. I thought, oh, what am I doing? But it was great. It was
That's
great. So
great.
sometimes you're never too old to take on more challenges. So even though, this whole thing with parent coaching is kind of a retirement piece,
Right.
that's my retirement career. You still need to meet new challenges, and I keep trying to do that.
Awesome, awesome. And then also, how can people get in contact with you if they want to know
Oh,
more about your programs? And then definitely we're going to put a link for the No Problem Parenting books. That way they're able to, grab a copy
to
of that
look
as
for
well.
that on
Yeah.
Amazon. Yeah. Well, one of the best ways is to reach me is on my website, which is
Okay.
joannehlight.com. And I have a link tree that gives you links to lots of my previous podcasts and
Awesome.
the book. Everything is in there. So I don't know if it's hard to do it. I'm sure just listening, but it's https://
Mhm.
linktr.ee and
Mhm.
/ Joanne H. Light.
Joanne H. Light. Yes. And we will put that uh in the bio for the show as well, so
That's
that
great.
way they can reach
They
you
can
on
find me.
all different platforms. And are there any parting words that you'd like to give our listeners before we
Hmm.
go?
Oh, there's so many, but one of the actually, I often think about Maya Angelou, who has so much wisdom to give, but her quote that I think goes something like, you you may not you may not remember everything someone did. You may not remember something they said, but
Right.
you're always going to remember how they made you feel.
How they made you feel. That's right.
So that
Yeah.
that you know, I think feelings need more attention, lots more
Yeah.
attention.
Yes, and that all goes to speaking on that emotional intelligence, tapping
Yes,
into yourself, tapping into the things that make you the best version of yourself,
yourself.
that will help you to show empathy towards others. So I thank you
Exactly.
so much for being
Thank
with
you for
me,
having me, Kim.
Joanne. And, as I say to all of my guests, this is what's happening right now. There's always something that can be happening in the next couple of hours, the next couple of days, or years from now. So you're always welcome to come back to the How Now podcast and share with us new things that are going on with you and going on in your now. So again, we thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Once again, it was great.
Yes. Okay. And that will do it for this edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. And until we see you the next time, I say peace.